I'm going to be talking about something we don't often talk about in the context of prosperity, and that is I'm going to be talking about sustainability and resilience. So as Karen alluded to the other day when she was talking about it, right? I'm the one who does the books in our household. I'm the one who's, in the Quicken, what was this for? What am I accounting it for? How does it work? What are we doing? Here's where we are. And Karen's job is to bring her prosperity consciousness to everything we do, right? I lean into that. And she leans into my willingness to think about where we are and ultimately think about the choices that we're making with the money that we have. So I want to start out with a story. Many years ago, I went on a shamanic journey, which was really, really lovely. When you go on a shamanic journey, what you do when you've never done it before is that you meet your spirit guide. And your spirit guide is essentially your totem, and your totem is the one who helps you as you go on subsequent journeys. And so we were led in this process, we were led to the place between the worlds, and then we were sitting under a tree and we were waiting for our spirit guide to show up in the shamanic journey. It was very lovely, very wonderful, and I was certain, well, I'm a spiritual leader. Surely it's going to be like an eagle or like a, something majestic or visionary or powerful, like a panther or who knows what. But I was expecting. And I was sitting under my little tree and I was waiting, and out from behind another tree over there waddled this little brown animal about this tall, came waddling out, stood in front of me and said, "Hello, Petra." And I was like, "You've got to be kidding. You are not serious." And I had to look twice. I had to look at the tail. Sure enough, it was a beaver. I had to breathe for a moment. And we were guided then to ask our spirit guide, "Tell me who you are and tell me why you're here. Why you? What is it that is important here?" And so we had a bit of a conversation, this beaver and I was trying desperately not to show my disappointment and my what are you talking about? Until the beaver finally looked at me and said, "Petra, don't you understand what I do? I create thriving environments in which things grow and flourish." I went, wait, I think that's my mission in life. Oh, that's what I want to do. I want to create thriving environments in which people grow and become more of themselves, and where they are nurtured and sustained. That's what I do. That's what I want to do here. That's what I've always wanted to do with my ministry. Oh my gosh, my totem is a beaver. So we had quite the amazing experience, this little beaver and I, right? And really understanding. And, I've always known this. I mean, I grew up reading Ranger Rick, for God's sakes. I knew what beavers do. And that they, they pool, they dam up streams, and they completely alter the environment. And they create living habitat for way more plants and animals that would live in the valley if that beaver pond and that series of beaver ponds was never created. And when beavers are doing that, what you know for a fact is that it's very healthy. The whole system is in alignment and it's completely healthy. If there are beavers living there actively working their dams, then that's a sign, like the canary in the coal mine. That's a sign that that valley is completely healthy and it is flourishing. The plants and animals are flourishing and taken care of. So when I think about our prosperity, we spend a lot of time talking about the inflow, right? The abundance of the universe, the inflow as it is coming to us. Karen is a master at that. It's just really extraordinary. Don't miss anything she does about prosperity. It's really amazing. And she really understands this abundance and at drawing it in and attracting it. She also really understands, she and I have deep conversations and a lot of agreement on the outgo, right? We love to contribute to causes that are important to us. I think as she said the other day, we've discovered that, we pretty much give away 20% of whatever comes into our house, not on purpose, but because we are totally comfortable in making sure that we're contributing to those causes. And of course, we tithe here at CSLDallas, so that's the first 10% right off the top. And that is important to us. It's important that we do that, and that outgo, right, is conscious and deliberate and filled with choices. And if you do a lot of prosperity work in New Thought and in the Science of Mind, that's usually where the focus is, the income and the outgo, right? Allow for the abundance of the universe to flow in and pay attention to making sure that you're not damming it off so hard that nothing gets out. But you're choosing, right, the beavers do that beautifully. They weave the dam so that just the right amount of water is allowed over and through the dam, and the rest of it, the pools and the ponds are continually being maintained. In the Science of Mind and the New Thought, what we generally don't talk about is what do we do with the pool as it is in our purview, as it is in our possession, right? Because we're basically doing that in our own lives. We're the beaver in our own lives. We've decided on a valley. We're pulling in the stream. We're damming up the stream to create our own homes, our own life, our own lifestyle, all of those kinds of things. And we're deciding on the outgo. We're deciding on the outflow. But what are we doing with the pool of prosperity, the pool of money, the pool of good, as it is in our possession? That is a significant question that I don't think we talk about often enough, right? Because the beavers are constantly maintaining that process. They're constantly maintaining it. They actually have no impact on the water coming in, and once it's gone out, they have no impact on that either. They can't do anything about that. What they can do is this constant maintenance of this pool that they have. Where are they going to build another dam? Where are they going to cut down trees? Where are they going to allow trees to grow? Where are they going to put their lodges? I'm going to say a word that most people in New Thought and spirituality don't like when we come to prosperity, and that word is budget. Right? Budget. We don't want to balance our checkbook. Why? Because we live in the abundance of the universe. Why should we bother balancing our checkbook? It doesn't really matter. Or we're afraid to see the story it's telling us. Right? And what I've heard over and over and over again is, well, why would I budget? Why would I want to limit the universe? Budgeting is not limiting the universe, right? Budgeting has nothing to do with the inflow. Budgeting has to do with what am I doing with it as it's mine. Now we do realize, right, it's all passing through. None of it's going to stay. It's all passing through. But while it's in my pool, what am I going to do with it? And what is one of the fundamental tenets of our teaching? Taking responsibility for our choices. This is all a budget is. And a budget is what allows our prosperity to sustainably grow, to sustain our lives, to create a flourishing environment for our own lives, because we're making responsible choices. So one of the reasons why Karen and I can give away so much money is because we're not shopping every other weekend. We don't go out to eat. So that allows us to buy organic food, which is very much more expensive, as you all know. But it's not as expensive as eating out all the time. And so these are choices that we make. These are the ways in which we create a sustainable lifestyle. For myself personally, I work 6 days a week because I love what I do and it's needed of me. There's so much going on. I work 6 days a week. So I take large blocks of vacation because at some point I just can't do it anymore. To go away and refill, right? Rather than small little pieces here, right? I take large blocks of vacation. So do you see, that's the choice I make. So I choose happily to most weeks work 6 days a week, and I choose then to go away for large blocks of time to refill. Do you see? But I'm taking responsibility for that. I don't just work 6 days a week forever and ever, right? And of course, I don't take large blocks of vacation over and over again 5 times a year. Do you see? It's the choices that we make. It's being responsible for what we're doing while it's here. So, and how that impacts not only our lives, but how it impacts in general the life around us. Are our choices sustainable not only for ourselves, but the way it's impacting the world? The way it's impacting the climate, the way it's impacting other people, are we making decisions about who we're doing business with? Are we voting with our dollars? Are we deciding to think about what impact this particular investment has, this particular place to buy something from, this particular thing to buy? Are we making conscious choices? Or are we always looking for that which is the least expensive? I will never forget one of my favorite things ever that I've learned about prosperity was a dear friend of mine back in Seattle, Georgia. And I needed to buy some new clothes because I was doing ministry and I needed to buy some new clothes. And I was like, oh gosh, and I was on a very tight budget at the time. I was still growing a very small community. And she said, well, Petra, you have to decide about buying clothes based on the cost per wear. I was like, what? She said, well, look, if you buy something for $20 and you wear it 10 times and it falls apart, so that a year from now you have to buy something again for $20, right? So that cost per wear is, somebody help me, $20, you wear it 10 times, $2 every time. It's cost you $2 every time you wear it, but then you have to buy another $20, right? But if you buy something for $50 that you can wear for 10 years, by the time you get to the end of 10 years, they're paying you to wear it. That was supposed to get a laugh, but it didn't. Are you not following me? What is the problem? Right? So we're still doing the math. Is that it? We've gotten stuck on the math. Sorry. So I remember buying, I was like, this was 1984. I think I just graduated from ministerial school. I had $2,500 in my pocket for which I was going to start a community with the 4 people I knew in the area. And by God, I was going to look good. So I needed a winter coat. And Georgia was coaching me on this cost per wear thing. And I fell in love with this, surprise, teal coat. This beautiful wool teal coat, heavy, beautifully made. I don't remember now how much it cost, but at the time it felt like it was an enormous cost. Probably would be the equivalent today of, buying a coat for $1,000. I don't know, I don't remember. And I kept saying to myself, cost per wear, cost per wear, cost per wear. Okay, that was in 1984. Last year, I gave that coat away because the moths had finally found it. Last year. Somebody do that math. Okay, I promise you they were paying me at the end of that time to wear that coat. I mean, it was down to cents, a few cents it was costing me every time I wore it. And it was very much the same thing that my parents said to me. If you're going to buy furniture, buy a good piece of furniture to last your lifetime. Otherwise, you're going to keep having to replace it, right? The truth is, you can do it either way. The question is, are we doing it consciously? Some things I don't mind replacing on a regular basis. Other things, I want to make that decision that it's going to last me a lifetime. Do you see? In this sense, there's no right or wrong per se. It's, are we doing it consciously? And of course, the things that we have to replace every year or 2 or 3, right, where does it go? It goes in the landfill. So now our decisions we're not conscious about the impact it's having. So a number of years ago, when it was a big conversation, should we buy a plastic tree? Should we buy a reusable tree, right? That would be good. We don't have to keep cutting down the forests. Except that they don't cut down the forests for Christmas trees. They actually cut down farmed trees. And fake trees you have to recycle. You have to figure out what to do, or they end up in the landfill. They now have these fabulous programs. If you get a real tree, every city that I know of will take your tree, they'll mulch it, and then in Capel, you used to be able to go get free mulch. If you gave in your tree, they would mulch it, and you could get free mulch for your gardens. Now do you see, that's a sustainable way of making choices. They now have in the Sahara Desert huge, ginormous piles of clothes that are made out of plastic. It's called polyester. It doesn't decompose. But people have gotten so in the habit of buying cheap clothes and then replacing them instead of having a piece of clothing that they wear for a period of time, that they don't know what to do with all of these massive amounts of polyester clothes. They're literally dumping them in piles, giant landfill piles in the Sahara Desert. Sustainability is all about us being conscious of our choices and being willing to look at the information of our pool without being afraid that we're somehow limiting the inflow or that we're blocking off the outflow. Right? Actually, what we're doing is we're paying attention. How much are we allowing it to evaporate? How much are we allowing it to flow out? How much are we using to make sure that all the plants are being nourished and the deer can come drink and the raccoons and right? It's all being used. The fish are in there. It's all being used. But we're cultivating what it is being used for and how it's being used. Do you see? And this is a part of also how our definition of prosperity gets to come into the picture, right? I don't buy a lot of clothes in Dallas. I choose not to buy a lot of clothes in Dallas because I want to be able to buy clothes when I travel. This comes from what's considered the Santa Fe of France. Comes from a little town called Roussillon, which is filled with artists and amazing things. And then I had to have something, right? And it was lightweight. I could stick it in my suitcase. Actually, I deliberately pack light so that I can shop for clothes outside of the United States. That's my choice. And so because I know I want to do that, I pack light and I don't buy a lot of clothes in Dallas. Your choice. Your choices. You want to buy art supplies. You want to buy a beautiful home so that you can have parties and you can bring your family together. You want to buy an electric vehicle. You want to invest in a business, right? Each one of these are utterly our choice. But what we want to do is to pay attention that while it's in our care, we're the stewards of it. We're the stewards of whatever is in our care. And the choices that we make about it is what allows it to become sustainable. Our lifestyle and the way our lifestyle impacts, that's what makes it sustainable. And then ultimately, my experience is that's what causes us to have resilience. When inevitably there are unexpected medical expenses, unexpected house expenses, unexpected car expenses, or we choose to help somebody go to school. We choose to help somebody do something in their own lives. We want to support their business, right? When we're managing in a stewardship point of view this which is ours, not out of fear. Do you know the beavers aren't afraid? They don't think something's going to happen. They just know that this is their job to manage it. Now, the last story I'll tell you is, I think we might have mentioned this, but it doesn't matter. There's a beautiful beaver pond up above the stream that in New Hampshire, that we have a pond. Our cabin is on a little pond. There's a stream, and it comes out of a couple beaver ponds up above. And it used to be, they have pictures of a 100-year-old beaver pond that was 12 feet high. People could literally walk across it. It was amazing. Okay, so in climate change in the last 50 years, that beaver pond has been eroded down. It was eroded down to about 6 feet. When we bought, it was about 6 feet tall. Last year, in July, while I was up there, they got almost their entire allotment of rain. Actually, in one day, one night, it rained 5 inches. It rained 5 inches in about 5 hours. And it had already rained 15 inches to that point just in July. It was scary, actually. I wondered whether the house was just going to be swept right off of the little, we're not on a cliff, but we are definitely, it goes down to the pond. And it was an interesting night to hear all of that happening. And knowing how much rain it had already, there was nowhere for the water to go but to run off. And the next morning, there was something really different about our pond, and it stank. It was like, oh, this is not good. So I hiked up to the beaver pond, just up the river, I don't know, half a mile, however far it is. And the rest of the beaver pond the rest of the beaver dam had been destroyed. Half of it had been washed away. Actually, it was so destroyed that the boulders, and I am not kidding you, the boulders on which this beaver pond, they had begun to make their dam. The boulders are it's a county line. They put these boulders to show where that county line was, and the beavers had used that for their dam. Boulders this big were moved 6 feet. Unbelievable. And the entire pond, which was huge, acres and acres and acres and acres of a pond, had flushed out. And it was mud and grasses, everything laying flat. And it was destroyed. Wow. Like epic destroyed. I went up there in April. And I went up and looked at that. And do you know, they've already captured those boulders, and they've already started to make their dam. And the water in the pond is already starting to rise. That's the resilience that comes when we manage and are good stewards of our prosperity without fear. Do you see? They just went, oh, guess we have to rebuild the dam. Guess we have to fix the car. Guess we have to make sure that the medical bills are paid. Right? Do you see? When we are managing our pool, when the rains come, which they may, they don't have to, but when they come, which they may, we have the resilience because we know how to create a thriving environment in our pool of prosperity. I hope this makes some sense to you. Does this make sense? Am I talking about this in a way that, okay. So do you see, there's nothing limiting about it. I don't feel limited by not buying clothes in Dallas. Actually, I feel freed because I can buy them in France and Bali and all the places that I love traveling. Do you see? It's just a choice. A choice. And we are built on taking responsibility for our choices. And when we just fritter our money away, this is the last story I'll tell you. I'll never forget Jason, he was 6 years old. He would get his allowance, and he'd immediately want to go to the local grocery store and go to toy aisle, right? And he'd get his 50 cents and he'd buy a 50-cent toy. And, the next time he got allowance, that toy was clearly already broken, right? It was cheap. He would go down and he'd buy another 50-cent toy. Took him about 6 months of this process to realize he was 6 years old. And he said, Mom, this is not working. I'm going to go down there and there's going to be, he literally said these words, there's going to be a shiny object there that I'm going to want to buy with my allowance, and it's going to break. So will you please hold my allowance until I decide what I really want to buy? So we developed the Mom Bank. And we would count the weeks that allowance had not been given when he decided that he wanted something, and he would count up. Oh, okay, it's $10. Okay, well, 2 more weeks, you'll be at $10. Great. And then when I gave him the $10, I'd check those weeks off. Allowance had been paid. He bought himself a $350 guitar using the Mom Bank. Choices. Taking responsibility, creating a sustainable lifestyle that truly brings us joy, as opposed to, I don't have enough money at the end of the month, or I don't know where it all went, or I don't know what's going, right? Do you see? Or, oh, something terrible has happened. And how wonderful when we say something terrible has happened, and look, I have my pool that I've been attending to, and I can use it for this. Isn't that a lovely thing? Look how prosperous I am. So I invite you into this less sexy conversation about prosperity, right? I know it's not nearly as sexy as when Karen talks about prosperity, because it's pretty amazing when she talks about the inflow and all of that good stuff. But this is the next piece. And of course, as we come to the end of the month, we'll be talking about making choices about the outgo, because, we can't hoard it. The water does have to move. The beavers know that. If you don't let the water move out, your pond becomes stagnant and everything dies. So the outflow is just as important. All right. Yeah. So I want to wrap it up to remind us that it is the beauty of taking care of our choices and being conscious about our stewardship of our lives. And so it is.